As the sun set over the dusty terrain of New Mexico, Dr. Evelyn Parker squinted at the fragile pages of an ancient manuscript she had discovered in an old library. This manuscript hinted at a curse woven into the fabric of a tomb long forgotten by time. With enthusiasm building in her chest, she traced the intricate hieroglyphs that spoke of secret rituals and guarded knowledge. It mentioned the Book of the Dead and referenced the otherwise unknown pyramid texts believed to hold the keys to the afterlife. Initially, this research felt like unearthing treasure. Yet, as the days turned into weeks, strange things began to happen. Colleagues who once seemed dedicated to unraveling the past started to vanish without a trace. Martin, a professor known for his expertise in ancient languages, had mysteriously disappeared, leaving only a trail of unsettling rumors behind him. A seasoned archaeologist faced a near-fatal accident while digging in a seemingly mundane location. These coincidences cast shadows over her once bright ambition, stirring doubts of an unseen presence that loomed over the findings. Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that she was taking her first steps into a world rife with danger. She pondered her motivations often. Was it merely the pursuit of knowledge that drove her? Or was it the thrill of potential fame? Perhaps, deep down, she was driven by a need to understand her painful family history tied to the ancient ruins dotted around her hometown. This burning curiosity transformed into a fierce resolve, overriding her fears. Among the cryptic text, one particular warning tugged at her: "Those who seek the tomb may awaken that which lies within." This line sent shivers down her spine, igniting a sense of impending doom. The implications weighed heavily on her mind. What if the curse was more than folklore? What if she was treading on grounds that should remain untouched? With rising determination, she dove deeper into the manuscript, carefully deciphering meanings behind scribbles about practices long deemed forbidden. The manuscript hinted at rituals that promised power but warned of consequences that could unravel not only history but also her very existence. Each symbol she interpreted felt like a step closer to unearthing the truth, and yet it felt perilous, as if she were peeling back layers meant to protect the world from an immense, looming complexity. As she bravely forged ahead, each unveiled piece beckoned her into the unknown. The tomb beckoned not just with the promise of historical revelations, but with an allure that pulled at her very soul, raising the specter of the curse awaiting any who dared to disrupt the past. Dr. Evelyn Parker eagerly began her investigation into ancient burial sites scattered across the arid landscape of New Mexico. She felt a strange mix of excitement and apprehension as she explored the caverns and ruins long abandoned. With each step, she immersed herself in the past, hoping to decode texts that held secrets waiting to be discovered. Armed with her notebook and a camera, she sought hidden knowledge, feeling like an archaeologist out of a storybook. But the deeper she dug, the more the warnings from the manuscript echoed in her mind. It was as if the very air around her thickened with uncertainty. Just days into her research, she noticed that those assisting her began to experience strange afflictions. Sarah, one of her research aides, complained of sudden headaches and a fever that refused to relent. As Evelyn cared for her, she couldn't help but feel a wave of concern washing over her. It was not just Sarah, others casually mentioned feeling off or having unsettling dreams filled with shadowy figures and labyrinths. The fear was palpable and insidious. As if the creeping concerns weren't enough, technology seemed to betray them. Cameras flickered, digital readings displayed cryptic numbers, and audio recordings picked up faint whispers that carried an air of foreboding. During one late-night session, they played back a recording to find vague sounds of murmurous chatter in languages unknown to them. They were faint, ghostly, as if remnants of forgotten souls brushed against the edges of their modern reality. While some of her colleagues laughed off these strange occurrences, Evelyn felt an invisible weight on her shoulders. She sensed a peculiar force watching, listening. With each passing day, self-doubt gnawed at her resolve. She wondered if embarking on this quest was a fool's errand. Were the manuscripts merely imaginative stories, possibly meant to steer scholars away from dangerous truths? These thoughts plagued her like unwelcome visitors. Late at night, while looking over her notes, she would pause, staring at the manuscript that had started it all. The text swam before her eyes, a jumbled mass that felt heavy with warnings and untold tales. Did she truly have what it took to unearth these secrets? Just as feelings of insecurity began to overwhelm her, she uncovered her next clue. Tucked between pages in a hidden compartment of an ancient burial site, she discovered an ornate dagger adorned with the same symbols she had seen in the manuscript. Its handle felt cool to the touch, a strange energy pulsing beneath its surface. The inscription around the blade was faint but legible, "With power comes responsibility, for those who take shall give." This line impelled her to reflect on her mission. What did it truly mean to seek power? What price would the discovery demand? Holding the dagger, she felt unfathomable choices begin to unfurl around her. Did her search come at a cost? Could she tread the path ahead while protecting herself and her colleagues? As she stood alone in the ancient ruins, doubt loomed larger than the shadows surrounding her, but so did a glimmer of hope. With the dagger in hand, she sensed that while the journey would be fraught with challenges, it could also hold revelations she had yet to imagine. Ultimately, the path she chose would be carved out by her courage to face the unknown, whether that meant shunning danger or stepping boldly into it. Evelyn was deep in her research when she received an unexpected communication. An anonymous message arrived, carefully folded and unsealed as if carrying secrets meant to be kept safe. The message was typed on old parchment, its letters forming words that made her heart race. "I know the truth about the curse and the sealed chamber beneath the necropolis." Whoever sent it claimed that this hidden space had remained untouched for thousands of years, far from curious eyes. The writer warned that an ancient guardian spirit lay within, a force best left undisturbed. Despite a flash of anxiety, curiosity ignited within her. The mysterious letter felt like a beacon, guiding her toward a thrilling discovery. With renewed determination, Evelyn gathered her team and shared the message. The others echoed her excitement but also expressed caution. "This could be a trap," said Michael, glancing around as if shadows lurked in every corner. But the thriving spark of adventure encouraged her, convincing her to push forward. She carefully scrutinized her notes, piecing together the next steps to find this lost passageway. Following the clues in the letter, they navigated through crumbling ruins, guided by the half-formed sketches and references in the manuscript. To their amazement, after hours of searching, they uncovered an entrance veiled behind tangled vines. Evelyn felt her pulse quicken as they brushed away the overgrown earth, revealing a narrow tunnel lit by flickering torches. A newfound confidence bloomed within her, it felt like the very walls beckoned them to rediscover the lost path. Just as they crossed the threshold into the secret passageway, the atmosphere shifted. The air became thick and cool, sending shivers down her spine. Echoes of whispers fluttered around them, chilling yet mesmerizing. "Do you hear that?" Sarah's voice trembled slightly as she tucked closer to Evelyn. Each of them nodded, a mix of awe and fear swirling within the group. Now, the odd occurrences that had haunted them suddenly felt like warnings amplified. Perhaps those whispers, once easy to dismiss, were more concrete. With every step deeper into the passage, shadows danced at the edges of her vision. Something was watching them. When they reached the heart of the sealed chamber, a sudden commotion erupted. In one chaotic moment, Michael raised the camera to capture the wonder surrounding them, each click echoing loudly. Yet, one impactful click revealed something unexpected, a fleeting shadow, barely discernible, darting behind the stone walls. The image left everyone in stunned silence, a chilling specter caught on film. Before they could fully process what they had seen, chaos descended. In a split second, a horrific realization struck them. Sarah had stepped back only moments before, her foot slipping out of reach. Panic gripped the group as they frantically called her name. "Where did she go?" Evelyn exclaimed, a mix of fear and guilt flooding her heart. But the echoes of her shouts faded, swallowed by a heavy silence. Evelyn fought to keep her composure while grappling with doubt. With the cryptic message warning them and now the possible loss of one of their peers, she wondered if some unseen force was truly at play. Was this room a place meant to be left alone? Or could they still turn back and save Sarah? As fear pulsed within her, another part urged her forward, believing they were on the brink of a significant discovery, even if terror and mystery surrounded them. Clenching the dagger from before, Evelyn could feel her heart beating, fierce and mighty, urging her to make a choice that would shape the course of their adventure. Evelyn's heart raced as she approached the final barrier to the undisturbed chamber. With her team by her side, she felt a mix of excitement and fear swell within her. Taking a deep breath, she pushed aside the last stones and stepped into the unknown. The sight that met her eyes was breathtaking yet overwhelming. The chamber was larger than she had imagined, the walls adorned with vibrant ancient murals that told a story both beautiful and horrifying. Each mural depicted moments of power and betrayal, revealing a tale of a dark curse designed to trap something far beyond human comprehension. Figures from a long-gone era reached out from the walls, their eyes filled with fear and desperation. It was a vivid reminder of those who once roamed these lands, and a warning about what lay ahead. Evelyn felt a shiver run down her spine. This was not merely a place frozen in time, it pulsed with stories that clung to each stone. As they moved deeper into the chamber, a strange phenomenon occurred. The air around them shifted, and shadows flickered, dancing where they shouldn't have. It felt as if the walls themselves were whispering, awakening to their presence. The atmosphere grew heavier, thickening to a point that felt almost suffocating. Evelyn exchanged worried glances with her team, and an uneasiness settled over them. Then, in an instant, something in the room seemed to respond to their intrusion. It was as if the chamber itself were alive, sensing their energy and curiosity. A low, mournful sound echoed through the vast space, reverberating off the walls. Evelyn's heart raced, thudding against her ribcage. The chilling whisper felt like a warning, a reminder that they were not alone. For the first time since their adventure began, she realized that this research was no longer just an academic pursuit. They had unwittingly become part of the very story they sought to uncover. What they were experiencing was a living narrative, woven intricately with the curse they had read about. An eerie knowledge settled over them, whatever force lingered in the chamber was real, and it was awakened. It began to feel undeniable. The woods had echoed with warnings, and the chilling coincidences that followed them were no longer mere coincidences. As Evelyn stood surrounded by swirling shadows, she recalled the whispers she had dismissed so easily before. Now, one particular phrase clung to her like a veil: awaken the curse and do not forget the darkness. Suddenly, an unexpected event illuminated their situation in horror. A brilliant flash lit the chamber, startling them all. Evelyn turned to see a blurred image materialize on the wall. It depicted a creature, dark and twisted, with glowing eyes and intricate markings resembling the symbols from the manuscript. As the vision faded, her heart sank. The curse was not only a relic of the past, it was a living entity, something that thrived upon their arrival. With the undeniable proof of its existence before them, fear mingled with a desperate glimmer of hope. Could they escape the grip of this ancient evil? As uncertainty loomed over her, Evelyn felt both trapped and resolute. The discovery within these ancient stones demanded respect, but they had to find a way to navigate the shadows enveloping them. Determined to reclaim their fate, they understood they needed to summon the courage to face not only the daunting legacy of the chamber but also the darker essence brought forth by their greed for knowledge. As tension enveloped the chamber, Evelyn's team felt the air grow heavier with secrets they had yet to unravel. Suddenly, Michael, her trusted ally, stepped forward, his expression grave. "Evelyn," he said, his voice trembling, "there's something I should have told you. I didn't want to frighten you." Evelyn's heart sank. She remembered the stories he had shared about the history of the region's burial sites, always weaving in warnings about ancient curses. She thought he had done so out of caution, but now his demeanor felt different. "What do you mean?" she pressed, anxiety choking her words. Michael hesitated. "I've known about this curse for a long time, far longer than I let on. It was never intended to trap grave robbers or anyone trying to unearth the past. It was meant to keep something sealed away, a force that is beyond human understanding. I didn't think this would actually happen." Evelyn felt a rush of confusion and anger. How could Michael have kept this from her? The troubled past of the site and the protective legends hidden in the villages were now harsh waves crashing over her fading sense of security. "You knew this whole time?" she asked, struggling to keep her voice calm. "And you didn't think to share it?" "I was protecting you," he replied, eyes wide with fear and regret. "We're not just uncovering history, we're disturbing something profoundly dangerous. I hoped we could find answers without awakening it. But now it feels like we've set it free." As he spoke, the shadows in the chamber warped and flickered like flames, efficiently mocking their realization. The supernatural disturbances they had faced were growing darker, more frequent. With each beat of her heart, Evelyn felt a pull at her consciousness. The world on the outside was no longer safe. Disturbances echoed back with whispers of despair, entangling their lives beyond the walls of the ancient tomb. Suddenly, she remembered the horror she witnessed in those blurred images on the wall, creatures stirred only in dreams, sensations pressed against the edges of reality. It clicked with sudden clarity: those disturbances were not merely coincidence, they followed them, watching from dark corners of their lives like specters trolling the night. What had once seemed like a grasp at wisdom now turned toxic in its implications. "Have we released it?" Evelyn whispered, the words slipping out in disbelief. Her pulse raced as she fought against terror. "What have we done?" In that instant, a realization struck her. This entity could feed on their fear, their desperation, like a shadow gaining strength from their inquiries. She felt the awakening presence closing in around her, engulfing her team in its cold grip. The danger was bound to their curiosity, fed by their quest for knowledge. With her mind ablaze with insight, she knew they must act, before it was too late. "We need a way to recapture it, to contain it again," she declared, resolve brightening within her. The knowledge she had fought to uncover now transformed into a weapon they would use to defend themselves. But as dread full of frightening possibilities twisted within her, she still felt an insufferable pressure weighting her down, whispering that time was no longer a luxury they could afford. The shadows advanced around them like wisps of smoke, demanding action. "We must find a way to seal it," she urged, determination hardening her voice. Knowledge was no longer just about discovery, it had become a race against time and an ancient evil waiting to reclaim its dominion. Each flicker in the darkness drove home the message: it was they who had rolled back the stone, and now they must confront the sealed agony that lay within. With a heavy heart, Evelyn realized that there was no way to undo what had been set in motion. The curse was no longer a mere story from the past, it had materialized into something very real and terrifying. The ground beneath her trembled, sending vibrations through the ancient chamber as if warning them to flee. But where could they run? She stood clutching the dagger, a symbol of both the unknown power they had awakened and the dark fate now closing around them. As stones cracked and fell from above, figures began to emerge from the darkness. Tall shadows danced in and out of view, flickering like flames. Their shapes were distorted, human yet otherworldly. Evelyn couldn't tell if they were spirits longing for release or malevolent memories that wanted revenge. The very air crackled with tension, a mix of dread and confusion filling her lungs. A chilling realization washed over her: whatever they had disturbed was hungry. These figures were no ghosts of the past, they were angry manifestations of the curse. Evelyn's pulse raced as the walls began to cave in, dust and debris raining around them. The sensations of panic and terror thrummed in her chest, pushing her toward the edge of desperation. She locked eyes with Michael, who was pale, his fright mirrored in her own. In this moment, she had to decide. She could risk everything to try to contain the unleashed force, confronting the curse head-on and facing an enemy cloaked in shadows. Or she could flee, abandoning the life she had known along with all her unanswered questions but live with the knowledge of what she had awakened. For a heartbeat, she saw the fierce determination in her teammates' eyes, speaking silently of their shared dreams for unraveling ancient mysteries. But those dreams were crushed by the looming threat of annihilation. She took a deep breath, feeling the grasp of fear tighten around her throat. "We need to contain this," she yelled, trying to convey her resolve. "It's the only way." Without time to waste, Evelyn dashed forward, the dagger held firmly in her hands. She felt a strange energy pulsing through it as if it were connected to the spirits closing in on them. Her instincts urged her to trust it. "We need to create a barrier. This dagger may still hold the key," she shouted, motioning for her team to gather near her. But as they formed a circle of protection, a deafening roar echoed through the chamber. The figures lunged, swirling around them like a dark tempest, their hollow voices screaming with a mixture of anger and agony. In that harrowing moment, the realization hit her that while they sought to contain the curse, they were also tearing down the fragile barriers that held it back, inviting chaos into their lives. The ground shook violently beneath them. The shadowy forms swirled closer, grasping for the warmth of the living. Just when it looked like hope was lost, Michael tripped and fell. In an instant, the darkness enveloped him, his screams muffled into the abyss. No! Evelyn's heart shattered as he disappeared, engulfed by the chaos they had inadvertently released. In that unbearable instant, Evelyn felt both despair and awakened courage. She couldn't run now. With Michael gone, she understood that fighting was all that remained. The weight of the curse pressed down on her shoulders, and she knew she had one last chance to break its hold. Mustering every ounce of determination, she plunged the dagger into the ground, fueling it with a steady chant, echoing the words inscribed upon its blade. The terror around them roared in response, a climactic amalgamation of fear and rage, as the final moment of their fate sealed. She could only hope against hope that this time her choice would not be in vain, that they still had a chance to turn back the darkness destined to engulf them all. Evelyn barely made it out of the tomb, her heart heavy with loss and uncertainty. As she emerged into the sunlight, the world appeared washed out, as though she had stepped into a different reality. The shadows of the chamber lingered in her mind, haunting her thoughts though the light was bright, and she was relieved to be outside. Yet, a nagging sensation settled deep within her. It was as if the curse had followed her, attaching itself like a shadow with no intention of leaving. In the days that followed, the disturbances haunted her. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw figures flicker. In quiet moments, whispers flitted through her mind, just borderline audible yet always elusive. Friends and family remarked on her peculiar behavior, they sensed something unsettled about her presence. Seeking comfort, she talked to Michael about the knowledge they had unearthed. She felt sure he would understand, but she found nothing but echoes of his absence in the cold air between them. Evelyn sought solace in her work, but the files and notebooks filled with research began to feel tainted. She tried to destroy them, convinced that the knowledge had settled like a stirring disease within her, that eliminating the evidence would ease the haunting whispers and visions. But no matter how many times she shredded the pages, they refused to fade. It was as if the knowledge itself had taken on a life of its own, beckoning her with a cruel laugh, holding herself prisoner within her own mind. Gradually, others around her who had witnessed what happened at the chamber started to note that their lives were shifting in strange ways. They reported odd occurrences, heavy shadows among familiar sights, unexpected noises in their homes, and unexpected feelings of dread overtaking moments that should have been light. Their worries mirrored her own, and as their trust began to fray, Evelyn felt the weight of isolation clinging more tightly. No matter how hard they tried to rationalize the events, the undeniable force of the curse cast a shadow over their lives, deepening their apprehension. The first clear sign that Evelyn could never truly escape what they had uncovered came one evening, just prior to dusk. Sitting at her desk, she glanced up from her work, staring into her reflection in the window. Her heart tightened as she saw not only her own face looking back but something deeper within, a flicker of shadow that seemed to linger just behind her eyes. In a moment of horrified clarity, she understood that she was marked. It was a truth she feared to acknowledge but could not evade. Tentatively, she turned from her reflection, seeking any semblance of comfort through her friends. But as she reached for her phone to call and discuss her fears, it slipped from her fingers, landing heavily against the floor. At that moment, the lights flickered around her, as if responding to her anguish. The shadows deepened in the room, swirling as if alive, spilling forth phantom whispers that echoed the curse's lingering grip on her reality. The sensations and glimpses of ancient figures, flitting at the edges of her sight, began to solidify into a deep-rooted certainty that she could not ignore. There would be no escape from the darkness they had awakened. The tomb had claimed not just Michael but a piece of her soul. The remnants of the curse chased her into each moment, severing her ties to her past while entwining her fate to that which she had unearthed. With this unsettling truth cementing itself in her heart, Evelyn realized there might be no return to the prior normalcy of her days. She bore the burden of knowledge and consequence, forever trapped within the cycle of shadows stirred from the depths of time. Desperation clung to Evelyn like a heavy fog as she scoured every piece of information she could find about the curse. Days turned into nights as she delved into forbidden knowledge, flipping through tomes that warned of the dangers but also promised the possibility of breaking the cycle that chained her to darkness. Legends whispered of an ancient ritual that could counteract the curse, but they came with a warning: the cost would be great, perhaps greater than she could imagine. Evelyn's heart raced at the thought of the ritual. It was said to summon the very spirits bound to the curse, offering a chance at redemption but requiring ultimate sacrifice. The warnings echoed loudly in her mind: there was a possibility of betrayal from those she once trusted. Michael, her closest ally, had disappeared under circumstances that only deepened her mistrust. Did he know more than he admitted about the curse's power and the means to quell it? It was during these moments of fear and flickering hope that Evelyn had no choice but to confront the awful truth. The whispers from the shadows became an unsettling lullaby, luring her deeper into temptation. She discovered that the final ingredient for the ritual was a personal sacrifice that would resonate beyond her life. This would not just be a matter of facing the curse, it demanded an offering from deep within her soul. Once again, she faced the memories of lost moments. As she reviewed the fragile pages of the ancient texts, something drove her toward that dark realization. Betrayal lurked not only in the past but extended into the present. The key to performing the ritual involved connecting with the energies and secrets buried in the tomb, approaching the forgotten forest deep within the mountains. In that forest, a place of raw, mysterious power, lay the ancient intention of those who first penned the manuscripts. But before she could attempt it, the darkness whispered roots of doubt, warning that performing the ritual would draw unwanted attention and could cost her life's very essence. Evelyn shifted restlessly, torn between seeking a way to restore balance for herself and risking more than she felt ready to lose. She pictured her friends, now ensnared in disturbances they couldn't explain, and she knew she bore a responsibility for the chaos unleashed. Did she have the right to risk her life when the consequences might reach beyond her own fate? The vision of Michael's absence weighed heavily on her heart, a constant reminder of what had already been lost. Was she willing to accept the cost? The price felt too high, yet an intense resolve bloomed within her. She had already witnessed how ignorance led to chaos. To sacrifice was to acknowledge the consequences of her actions and confront not just the curse but the darkness lying within herself. This battle was no longer simply about breaking the chains of the curse but accepting the burdens tied to the knowledge they had unearthed. In the shadows, stirring as if they had a pulse of their own, Evelyn made her decision. If there was any chance to reclaim balance and protect those she cared about, she would undertake the journey into the dark woods to perform the ritual. She recognized that confronting the forces at play would require more than courage, it would demand a true understanding of losses endured and an acceptance of the price of knowledge. With a determined heart, she prepared herself for the trial ahead. Echoes of doubt could not drown out the whispers of hope that sustained her. As she set forth, she felt both terrified and empowered, knowing that the road ahead would be laden with decisions that would shape her destiny, and perhaps the fate of many. Embracing the weight of her choice, Evelyn stepped into the unknown, firm in her resolve to confront and integrate the frightening lessons learned from the ancient past. Evelyn stood at the edge of the ancient forest, her heart racing as she prepared for the ritual that would dictate her fate. The stories of the past filled her mind with echoes of the curse that loomed over her and her friends. She had made her choice, a choice entwined with both hope and fear. Gathering her courage, she began the incantation she had studied relentlessly, calling upon the spirits trapped within the curse. The energy around her swirled, alive with tension, as if the very forest responded to her summons. Moments turned into eternity as her voice rang through the trees, rising like a storm. The air thickened, and dark shadows flickered between the trunks. At first, Evelyn felt a sense of power, a connection with ancient forces she had sought to understand for so long. But then apprehension crept in, and the shadows morphed into something darker, threatening. As she continued, the faces of those tormented by the curse appeared in her mind. Their eyes pleading for release. Whatever this force was, it was complex, steeped in anger and sorrow. Evelyn's heart pounded as she concluded the incantation. The ground trembled beneath her feet, and a loud crack split the air. She clutched the dagger tightly, feeling that its energy pulsed harder than ever. It was an uncertain moment, and though she was terrified, she had come this far, she had to push forward, no turning back now. With a final surge of will, a blinding light erupted from the dagger. The shadows writhed and contorted before her. When the illumination finally faded, the forest fell silent. Evelyn opened her eyes to find a glimmer of hope cascading down like soft rain. The shadows receded as if at last released from their chains. Had the curse been lifted? Or had it simply transformed, changing into something entirely new? Out of the corner of her eye, she caught a flicker of motion. Dread coursed through her as she recognized a familiar silhouette amongst the trees. With strands of doubt returning, she remembered, including Michael's tragic fate in the chamber. It was then that she understood, while the curse may have lost its grip, that very act of liberation costs something substantial. She had set something free, but what formed in its place? These new shadows seemed alive with potential. Perhaps they were reflections of the weight they had all carried, the darkness they had invited into their lives. A weight she could not easily dismiss. As she turned to leave, Evelyn felt a mix of relief and uncertainty. She survived, but she was not the same person who had entered the forest. The experiences had morphed her, leaving indelible marks on her spirit. Each brush with the unknown had strengthened her will, deepened her understanding of history, and taught her about the layers of knowledge that shrouded even the most ancient secrets. The interactions with the curse, its evolution into something possibly more terrifying, now echoed in her thoughts. Would it haunt them forever, twisting into a new form? As she stepped out of the woods, the world around her felt alive yet different. A sense of responsibility crept in, she couldn't deny the weight of what lay ahead. With every shadow lurking near, she also felt a new awareness, a connection to the layers of history sewn into the very fabric of their world. Evelyn kept walking, determined to share her story, to inform others of the dangers rooted within the unknown. As she glanced back toward the forest, a shiver traveled down her spine. The air whispered something to her, a lingering suggestion that some mysteries might never fully dissolve. There would always be a price to knowledge. Whatever shadows danced in her future, she vowed to meet them with bravery and insight, aware that past choices might ripple into tomorrow's challenges. What once was a curse had transformed her, not just leaving eerie remnants of the past but a newfound commitment to safeguard those who would come after her.